Major League Baseball, Pro Baseball today, right here on the SportsGrid Network. Myself, Donnie, Rightside, along with Craig Mish. And this is the last Sunday we'll be able to say April baseball in Major League Baseball. Why? Because the month of May is going to begin. May flowers out here. Forget about all this nonsense, all this cold weather, and away we go. Most teams, Craig, over 25 games played in Major League Baseball. We continue to move along with all of the hot topics.
Yes, we do indeed. And cold weather, I don't know what you're talking about, Donnie, here. I got warm weather here in South Florida, not to throw it in there. But we enter the month of May. Certainly some very disappointing performances for some teams this season. Some teams are off to really big leads in their divisions as well. And I just wonder, they say you can't lose the season in April, Donnie, but as we're going to get into here on the show, I think a couple of teams have to be asking that question. At the end of the season, did we derail ourselves in the month of April? I think so.
I think Yogi Berra said it either one way or the other here. It's getting early late or getting late early at this point. For some teams, it's coming now. Well, for my Philadelphia Phillies, who actually picked up a victory last night, we'll get to them in just a little bit. I'm wondering if they're going to make a managerial change. Yesterday, Craig, around 7 p.m., Jeff Passan puts out the tweet. The Boston Red Sox fired manager Alex Cora, hitting coach Peter Fatsi, bench coach Ramon Vasquez, and game planning coach Jason Varitek. Now, typically, Craig, we do see changes in Major League Baseball, usually later in the season, but it might be a bench coach you change. It might be a third base coach you change. It might be the manager you change. Cleaning house in Major League Baseball in April, Craig. What did you hear? I mean, my goodness, what a shockwave last night.
Yeah, my guess is there's a lot more that will come out over the next, week or two. Hopefully no pictures involved, but a story for another day. But what I would say is Alex Cora, at least the narrative right now seems to be that he will be fine and he will get another job and he's a really good manager. And the initial sentiment is that, and I would feel that way as well. But look, what's going to happen inevitably when these things happen is we will have some leaks as to some things that were happening with the team and in the clubhouse and some relationships maybe that were strained. And I don't know this to be fact because I don't cover the Red Sox, Donnie, but when this stuff happens, it just doesn't die in 24 hours. It keeps going on. So, look, Boston, they have a lot of work to do ahead of them. There's no question that, in my opinion, that the roster was flawed at the beginning of the season. There's no question. And I think really, not getting Alex Bregman back was a big key for me. But how does that have to do with anything with Alex Cora did? I really don't know. But heading in another direction, and now there's no doubt, Donnie, that Craig Breslow, who's the president of baseball operations, is going to have a lot of pressure on him the rest of the season, because this is what happens, is that you start throwing stones and then all of a sudden there's no stones left to throw. And I think Breslow is going to have to get this fixed pretty quickly. You trade Devers last year, you enter the season 7 or 8 games under 500, although they did have a good offensive showing on Saturday. They're going to need to have similar performances, I think, for anybody to save their job. That's at the end of the season. I wouldn't anticipate any more now. There's really nobody left to fire, right?
It's unbelievable because when you look at it, and again, sometimes it gets exacerbated here by when you're like, okay, we're going to play the Yankees. You don't come up well. That's our rival. That's embarrassing as a start. But if we can put it back up, that underdog MLB tweet, again, this, we see it in all sports, head coach in basketball gets fired, assistant takes his spot here. The NFL, okay, coaching gets relieved in December. Assistant coach is going to step up. And it's almost like, Craig, where do we go from here? Manager, hitting coach, bench coach, assistant hitting coach, third base coach, hitting strategy, and game planner here. Was there something, the fish rots from the head, as they like to say? I've never seen anything like this. And maybe over the course of the season, you might dump all of those guys, but all at once. It's almost like a line change in hockey, Craig. What happens now that nobody's there to manage the team, and who gets in there by today?
Yeah, well, Chad Tracy, I guess, is the interim manager at this point, so he will take over and basically, I would guess, take over for the rest of the season. But, some of these questions that have to be asked, Donnie, would be, what did you think a month ago, Donnie, right? Right before the season started, did you think that these coaches were the answer to your season? Because if not, why did you wait all off season to make a change like this? So look, it's very complex. The Red Sox have been sort of shifting around different, general managers through the years. I thought that they had a really good one, honestly, in Chaim Bloom, and a lot of these young players who are coming up now through the Red Sox system were players that essentially were drafted under his watch. So now he'll take over St. Louis. You see the Cardinals have some better results, but we'll have to wait and see. Is there in a transition or a rebuild as well? And again, this is no indictment on Breslow. I think that they brought him in with all the right intentions. But I mean, he is now going to have to, I think, not only turn this around this year to some degree, Donnie, but will have to win next year as well, or else the Red Sox could be right back in the same position that they were, looking for a new president, looking for a new manager as well. And as far as Cora's future is concerned, I don't think there's probably a long waiting period for him. My guess is if he wants to manage next year, he can, but that's always the initial reaction. I remember, Donnie, when Skip Schumacher, remember how great he was with Miami and then had a tough year, and everyone said, oh, well, he'll manage anywhere he wants the next year. He had to wait a couple of years before finding the right landing spot in Texas. So my prediction is Cora doesn't jump back in this year, maybe doesn't jump back in the next year, and again, he's getting paid anyway, so it really doesn't matter, and then waits for the right landing spot for him as well.
It's an interesting put for the season as well, because Chad Tracy is probably going to be there for the remaining parts of the season, and if the Boston Red Sox do well, he'll probably become their manager. But Craig, what happens behind the scenes? Because even bench coaches, Don Mattingly comes over to the Philadelphia Phillies. It took some time, took some weeks and months to get in there, make sure it's the right fit, is going to be comfortable. Where do you pick these other, let's just say, coaches up from? Is it just the entire AAA or AA staff moves up here? And also, are they just supposed to they'll be fine in Major League Baseball for the remaining parts of the next 6 months? Or is it one of those, hey, we just need people on first base, third base, and a bench coach. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll interview and get different guys in there, because unprecedented to say the least. This isn't okay, we did it in spring training, we have 3 weeks to get ready. You're in the middle of a season where you're in last place right now in the American League, and everybody's in a whirlwind right now.
Right. So I don't think that this is a complete punt of the season, but when you do something like this and you bring in all the minor league coaches, that indicates to me that they want to get more out of the players that Chad Tracy has seen come through the minor league system, and their minor league hitting coaches have seen through their minor league system. So, Donnie, dare I say, if this does not turn around, it could be a Boston development kind of season. It could be. You could see a team in July trade pieces. Yes, this is all very possible when you bring in minor league coaches. There's nothing wrong with minor league coaches. Eventually, they're all going to be major league coaches too, but they've seen Roman Anthony and some of the other players that have come through the system. And Donnie, I hate to say it for Red Sox fans, but if they don't get things turned around, anybody on a 1-year deal or 2-year deal could be headed out the door and maybe just admit defeat. I know it sounds crazy, but we talked a few weeks ago. I thought Tampa was better than Boston. I did. I still think so as well. And obviously the Yankees are too. But Toronto, I mean, maybe, Donnie, are the Red Sox looking at this internally in April and saying this is not our season on May 1st? It's possible.
It's unbelievable, because this is a Red Sox team also that gets into it a little bit with their fans over the past couple of years. Oh, big market team, can't afford some of these players, got to trade them or just lose them to free agency overall. It's happened to them. And now coming into the season, okay, spent some money on that starting staff. Ranger Suarez comes over, thought it was a quality starting staff, good bullpen here, and a nice mix of young players, power options, and speed options, and nothing has worked out. And the one thing you bring up, Craig, I do think is interesting is you can always punt on the manager. Okay, we're going to fire the manager. That's easy. It's a lot harder to get rid of the players, because you can't just fire sell them as if it's okay, we have prospects, just clear the deck and we'll be able to rebuild over the next 6 months or even into the off season. I'm interested to see what they do now, because I wonder if they get a bump from this, or is this just not the manager changing the script and it's an entire, as I said again, line change in hockey at this point. This could send them to a win streak here, or, oh no, white flag is up and we're going to stay in the bottom of the standings here, Craig, in the AL East for the rest of the summer.
All right. Well, they're going to fight initially. And the idea is that they're changing this to fight, at least to start with. But when I see this sort of thing, when everyone zigs in sports, I sort of zag. I go the other way. And I think to myself, Craig Breslow, a lot easier, Donnie. Think about this. A lot easier for him to say, hey, look, we're gonna go through a transition season. We're going to go through a rebuild season. I'm just going to tell you this right now, and then we'll revamp for next year. Donnie, I got to say, I think that's the direction that they end up going at the end of the year. That's just me.
The Sox, Craig, punting on a season in April. Nobody had that on their bingo card coming in here. But you know what? Hot players, hot teams coming up next on PBT.
They do nothing fancy, the Philadelphia Flyers. There's nothing like, oh my God, like they basically, Kevin, could like hand you their playbook before the game. Like, seriously. They can say, yeah, this is what we're going to do. These are our lines, and this is how we're going to match up against you. Like, you know it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and you know it. There's nothing you can do about it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
The promising thing for Oklahoma is you've got this legislature that seems to be fairly behind sports betting and legalizing it for the tribes. Stitt is term limited out this year, so you will have a new governor in Oklahoma next year. So this will be a state to watch because there are a lot of tribes in Oklahoma saying, we want this. FanDuel came out as this was coming and said, we want the chance to partner with at least one of the tribes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I don't get it, man. Maybe this is more of a Kalshi poly market conversation to jump in on the prediction markets, but to me, this is the spot that I would roll with the Rays, man. I think they're undervalued every year, and I think they're undervalued this year again. Look, the Yankees should be the favorite. They're the best team on paper. Baltimore, Toronto, and Boston? Donnie, are they that much better than Tampa Bay? What am I missing here?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
The level of involvement with the government and the universities is just absolutely hilarious. You got nothing else going that you got to be this involved here across the board? I do not get it, Donnie. I really don't. But that just goes to show you how much it means here to certain individuals in politics.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
April baseball here. Now, you can't win a World Series in April, as we know, but apparently you can lose it and maybe punt on the season, as we just had in previous segments here. The Boston Red Sox fired their manager, Alex Cora, here. And the Boston Red Sox, high expectations here coming into the season, now find themselves in the basement here in the AL East. The New York Yankees in first place. Everybody else outside of the Rays have a 15-11 record. Couple under 500 teams, but the underperforming Boston Red Sox do make a change here. And as Craig, as we talked about so many times, it's interesting to see a manager go early in the Major League Baseball season. Now, do other teams, Craig, take a look at this and say, maybe we should do the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that one firing leads to another, or I don't think one story like this indicates that more things like this will happen, Donnie. So I don't want to say that. I think the Red Sox acting independently. I think other teams will also act independently. But what we are seeing, Donnie, I would say this, is in sports in general, the tolerance for losing period is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. I mentioned this, on my other show here on Newswire, that in the National Football League, Donnie, if you look back in time, when a team was going through a rebuild, we've seen it all through the years. I'm seeing it again happen here in South Florida. You usually got the opportunity for about a 2 to 3 year period to rebuild your organization before they fired the coach. This is just generally what's happening in the last, 20, 30 years. Donnie, that has become 1 year now in the NFL. You basically have 1 year to come in. You can lose as much as you want, but then the next year you got to come back and be good again. That's unprecedented. As far as managers and coaches are concerned, I think it's happening in the same way in Major League Baseball. I don't think that I think you're going to see a lot more changes in the first half of the season than you've ever seen before in Major League Baseball. We're seeing it in the NBA. We're seeing it in the NHL as well. So that being said, I don't know that directly answers your question as to whether or not the Red Sox firing is going to lead to more, but I think just the shelf life of a skipper is going to go away. Now, to Alex Cora's credit, he's been one in Boston for a really long time and won at a high level for a really long time. But I do think, you're right, Donnie, I do think in Philadelphia, in New York with the Mets, I mean, I got to be honest, I hate to say it, in Kansas City as well, Matt Quartaro did such a great job with the Royals last year. They've been losing like crazy. I think there's so much pressure now to win in sports that you only get a short period of time to show that you can turn it around before a change is going to be made. And so Philadelphia is definitely the next spot. Like that's the one to take a look at and wonder if Rob Thompson, who by all accounts did a really good job for taking over for Joe Girardi and getting his team to the postseason, but Donnie never getting his team above the hump, right? Never getting them to the World Series or winning the World Series. And now they're sitting in a season where they look up and say to ourselves, this was the year for us. This was, look at the Mets with this payroll. I mean, we should definitely be above them. We should definitely above Washington. How is Miami above us too? So I think that's the next spot to go to and wonder. And I'll say like Memorial Day-ish, like looking at that, Donnie, maybe giving another month to say, hey, look, you got to get back to 500 by Memorial Day. We got to make a change.
If I asked you a question right now, we do a lot of predictive market stuff, Craig. By the time we talk next Sunday, will we have another managerial change in Major League Baseball, or does everybody just take this, okay, let's calm down, let's see what happens? Or is this one of those where we see an offensive tackle run in the NFL draft? Oh, no, got to grab our guy now. Or is somebody fighting to saying, you know what? Do I want Alex Cora? Because the things we hear in Philadelphia is, wait a second, that's Dombrowski's guy. He's now on the market. So if there is a time to make a managerial change, could it be now or in the next few days?
Yeah, I don't think Alex Cora manages this season. That's my opinion. I'm not even sure that he manages next season. So that's the narrative here. And being involved in the game as I am, I'm not surprised to hear this stuff. Alex Cora, he's a great manager. He's going to get a job immediately. It's never the way that it works. And from Cora's perspective, he's been grinding, Donnie, for so long with money in the bank for the next couple of years. Yeah. I mean, this guy is going to end up the World Series being on television on Fox or MLB Network or somewhere else. I mean, that's where that's headed for him. And then I don't know, but I would guess he'll reset at the end of the season. As far as Philadelphia is concerned, my answer is no. I don't think that it'll happen in the next week, but my very big concern for them is the team is not getting any younger. They have a lot of older players there. The top of the lineup is great. The bottom of the lineup is not. The back end of the rotation is not. And so with them having to make up so much ground between now and the end of May, I think that's when you could potentially maybe see a change there. But everyone wants to blame the general manager and say it wasn't the manager's fault. Let's stand by here. Let's see over the next week some of the reports that come in from the great reporters that are covering the Red Sox. Did things happen? Were players not happy? We don't know, Donnie, just yet the entire story. I always say you got to stand by. You got to hear things and wait things for it to play out. But Philadelphia, Kansas City, very high expectations, falling completely flat here at the beginning of the year. Carlos Mendoza, who everybody likes a lot. He's a great guy too, but someone's got to fall on the sword. We're just going to have to see. Next week we're here. I think all the managers will still be intact.
Yeah, we're going to get to some of those hot teams here, Craig, in the next segment. But it's just, and again, we're still early in the season, technically, even though we're about 25, 26, 27 games in with most teams here. You take a look at some of these last place teams, like heading into the season, never thought this would be. In the American League East, it's the Boston Red Sox. In the Central, it's the Kansas City Royals. In the West, it's the Houston Astros. You flip it over to the National League, Craig. In last place, it's the Mets and the Phillies combined with 9 victories here. You take a look at the Brewers, technically in last place in the Central. And then, of course, the Colorado Rockies. But the Rockies have 11 wins, and teams like, again, the Mets and the Phillies have under double-digit wins. It's crazy how it started here, but also it's not as if you say to yourself, Craig, we can make up 2 to 3 games here. Some of these teams already looking, Craig, at double-digit deficits to good baseball teams before you get to May. It's hard to dig up out of the ground like that.
Yeah, and I think the other team that could end up making a change at the end of the season, I don't think it'll be now, would be Houston. And by the way, that's one of those scenarios where just a confluence of issues have happened for them. They let the team sort of drift, get a little bit older. Some of their signings don't appear to be working out, Amai in particular. And then you look at it, when you lose Amai and Hunter Brown, your number 1 and your number 2, Donnie, what team is going to survive that? Yeah. Houston has the most players on the injured list right now. Major trouble for me with the Astros. That's the other team to watch as the season goes on. But honestly, it could be more of a complete wipeout in Houston if this continues like this. Like if Houston finishes 15, 20 games under 500, I don't know who would be back with that team next year.
It's crazy, too. And also, one of their players coming back from injury, Alvarez, has been sensational. Like, hey, of course the Astros are having a good season. Not the case. Who's hot? Coming up next. Streaky teams in Major League Baseball, we see it all the time. It's Pro Baseball Today, right here on a Sunday on the SportsGrid Network. Donnie Rightside along with Craig Mish. And one of those teams you say, well, how do you get hot? Well, it's simple. You play the Mets and you play the Philadelphia Phillies who can't get out of their own way. What team is that? That's the Chicago Cubs, who look great on offense, getting decent pitching here. Finally took a loss yesterday to the Dodgers, but the Cubs were one of those teams I looked at. Extremely talented, stumbled a little bit out of the gate, then got hot at the right time, and it looks like they found their level here. 17-10 on the Major League Baseball season. As you saw yesterday, finally losing a game to the Dodgers 12-4. Cubbies, hot at the plate, Craig. Like what I see so far.
Yeah, great start for them this year. Seiya Suzuki in particular, one of those names that I think, building on what he did last year, continued to hit all this past week as well. And as you can see, not playing any slouches, although Philly's not having a great year. You would have thought that would be an impressive series. They wiped them out. Dodgers playing them as well and doing a good job there. So, look, we all had the Cubs projected to have a really good year. What we didn't know was that the Cubs would be in for a dogfight with the Reds, and I think maybe even the Brewers later on in the season. The Pirates are off to a good start, too. Ironically, in the end of the season, that could be maybe the West, too, but the Central could be the division that produces all of these playoff teams and not the East. At least that's what it looks like on paper thus far.
Yeah, I get upset with sometimes I see it's like, my Philadelphia Phillies like, oh yeah, Schwarber's under 200 and Harper's like the bright spot at 270, and maybe you take a look at a Brandon Marsh who's playing well. And no, like a lot of 150s in that lineup, which includes my guy Alec Boehm. Then you look at the lineup here for the Cubs. How do you like to set the table? I don't know. Nico Horner, no more for his glove, hitting 309 at the leadoff spot with 4 home runs already. You go down that lineup, Ian Happ with 7 home runs. Suzuki, as you talked about, 327 on the season. How about through 65 at bats, 397 for Ballesteros there as well. This team is hitting at the right time right now. I want to see what they can do, because in that ballpark, when the wind is blowing out in that division, they can put up some serious numbers. And again, they're not in first place because of how good the Reds have actually opened up, but I like the fact they turned that corner. We'll see about that game that they played today against the Los Angeles Dodgers, but my expectations from the beginning of the season still look pretty good with what the Cubs have been doing lately, Craig.
Yeah, they're playing really well, as we talked about, like opening week. I think I like the Reds a lot. I saw them play here in South Florida and thought, okay, now this, I've seen this for so long. I know what a good team looks like. I know the Reds are going to be good. That to me, that team is going to be the team that's going to battle the Cubs, Donnie. And I do wonder if the Reds add a couple of pieces to get their lineup a little bit stronger. If they do that, their pitching is very formidable, and who knows if they get back Hunter Green. So, but then probably a Cubs fan would be yelling at me right now, Donnie, saying, well, what do you think? The Cubs are just going to sit back at the deadline too? They're not. Look, the Cubs should put the foot on the pedal this year. They look like one of the best teams in the National League, no question.
Hot players, hot teams. Let's start with the hot team here, the San Diego Padres. And you might find yourself and say, okay, where do they sit right now? Well, technically in first place there in the West, Craig. We have them at 18-8, but how about this? Look at the lineup itself. Laureano, 255. Tatis, 250. Merrill, 204. Manny Machado, 198. And this team is well above 500. Why? Because you're getting some spectacular pitching here, Craig, which includes Mason Miller, who's been absolutely on fire, untouchable. Look at that. 69 and third innings pitched here. Batting average against Craig, 0.65. No extra base hits, and it looks like everybody that gets up just strikes out against him. What a move from getting him from the A's over to San Diego. This team built on pitching right now and winning with pitching, Craig.
Yeah, they're gonna be in it from beginning to end. They're built to win right now. Their team is, as we just saw, it was announced that will be sold at some point for almost $4 billion. So maybe this is the last season where the Seidler family runs it back, Donnie, and tries to push all the way down, because this is it. But they got to answer now to the new owners as well. But Miller's having a great year. I just would caution everyone out there, as good as he's going to be, and he's the best relief pitcher in baseball, people this time of the year get all sexy and try and bet him to win the Cy Young. He's not going to win it, okay? He's not going to win it. It doesn't happen. Every year we see this. There's a great relief pitcher, and then some people start getting really smarter. They want to be the smartest person in the room and start betting him to win the Cy Young. It just doesn't happen. We don't see it. Gagne was the one back in 04, I think it was, or 03, where he won the Cy Young Award. They give the Cy Young Award to the best starting pitcher in baseball. And Miller may be the very best pitcher in baseball, but I think, Donnie, in order for him to win this thing, I don't care what the odds are, he'd probably have to give up no runs the entire year. Yeah. And I'm still not sure that he would win it. It's just, I don't know why this has become like this. It's just the nature of the game.
People want to get back to the Gagne days out there for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Let's recreate that guy to the bullpen. That can absolutely be filthy. But Mason Miller, absolutely explosive there, no doubt. And as we talked about that lineup here, Machado has struggled. Outside of Bogarts, is hitting 280, and also Miguel Andujar hitting 316. The rest of the lineup here, 186 for Freddie Fermin. Jake Cronenworth now down to the ninth hole hitter, a 163 average. This is one of those things I look at, Craig, and say, wait a second. You're supposed to be like the Philadelphia Phillies, barely with 10 wins with that type of lineup here. What happens, Craig, when they start to hit in that lineup, which includes Manny Machado? Could they give the Dodgers a run?
Yeah, I don't think so for the division, but anything can happen in the postseason. So you never know.
Never know here, absolutely. But we know there's more hot teams in Major League Baseball. We're going to stall in the cold teams, which is my Philadelphia Phillies, who felt like a miracle picking up a win last night in Atlanta. Oh, my goodness. We'll be right back. It's Pro Baseball Today on a Sunday right here on the Grid.
If LeBron James is the causal reason, and he would be, that the Lakers take out the Houston Rockets, I got to change my narrative a little bit. I gotta walk back some of the aggressive criticism of the self-appointed greatest player of all time, which he's not, but that's why I said self-appointed.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Gotta call it what it is, Donnie. Did Houston just completely misfire here? Like, did they not do enough research, background, find out more about the guy for him to say this just a few weeks into the season? And then you start wondering, Donnie, is it really dead arm? Like, is there anything going on here? Like, oof, I don't know. Just an awful look for Houston at the start of the season, and they can't win a game to save their lives here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Do you think technology and those earpieces, again, when it comes to the development of the quarterbacks, is hurt the game?
The development of the quarterback position is getting worse and worse and worse because you don't see live action, you don't get game time experience, and you're going to have to develop in a slower way. And to me, if you don't have the people around you, it's going to be a tough road to be able to play the game.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
The level of involvement with the government and the universities is just absolutely hilarious. You got nothing else going that you got to be this involved here across the board? I do not get it, Donnie. I really don't. But that just goes to show you how much it means here to certain individuals in politics.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Hot teams in Major League Baseball. Let's get after it on Pro Baseball Today. Donnie Rightside and Craig Mish on a Sunday. And yes, we'll get to the National League East, which has my Philadelphia Phillies. Oh, you first? No. Dead last place with those New York Mets. We'll get to those, as I said, in just a little bit. But the Atlanta Braves, Craig, we've talked a lot over the first couple shows of this Major League Baseball season saying, boy, it just wasn't right for the Braves last year. So many injuries, and you can't dig yourself a hole to start the season against quality Major League Baseball teams and expect to win the division and or make the playoffs. And here the Braves are, close to 20 wins already on the season and in first place by roughly 5.5 games over everybody, which includes 9.5 and 9 over the New York Mets here. The Atlanta Braves, hot start this season, and we're still waiting for that pitching staff, Craig, to get healthy here.
Yeah, it does feel like when they brought in Walt Weiss and they made some changes and added some bullpen pieces, although Iglesias is hurt, it felt like, Donnie, that they looked at last year and said we cannot have a repeat of that, because it did feel like the Braves buried themselves in the month of April, maybe similar to your team, the Phillies, and even the Mets as well. Right now, the Braves are just firing on all cylinders. They're taking care of all the teams that they need to take care of. They did very well against Washington. They won 2 out of 3. We'll see what happens, obviously, Sunday. But I think that the Braves are probably not only overwhelming favorites, but a team, as you mentioned, that's going to get back players healthy and playing well. I really like the position that they're in right now. And if you look, by the way, Donnie, at their run differential last season, it sort of indicated that they were very unlucky. It was an unlucky team last year. They probably should have had better success. I think that they're clearly the team to beat in the East. I still think it's going to be tough for them to beat the Dodgers and some of these other teams in the National League. But, Donnie, it's fair to ask yourself the question: what happens later on in the season if the Braves face a Mets team that's punted, and faces a Phillies team that's punted, and faces a Washington team that's punted? Maybe it's, them and the Marlins are the only team that are fighting it out. In the end, they could really, really have a nice second half of the season if that is indeed the case.
They certainly can. And Craig, just from a pitching perspective here, the expectations are always high for Chris Sale, and he was really a scrap heap guy. Maybe he can just come back to Atlanta and give us a couple good innings. He's been everything and that much more. And then you take a look at this season, Craig, 2.79 ERA. Ronaldo Lopez, not a great pitcher, but 3.74 keeps you in there. And then you have that great start by J.R. Ritchie here in his first game. Grant Holmes, 3.62, and Bryce Elder, a 1.95 ERA that he has as well. Then you look at that bullpen. Suarez has been fantastic. Lee and Kinley. I mean, they have guys at the top of the staff and the bottom of the staff providing it. And also, we know we love that lineup. They just have to stay healthy. By the way, Craig, hearing any noise around Spencer Strider, the expectations on him for this season for the Atlanta Braves, do you have any news on him when he's coming back, or even what we can think of him?
Yeah, I think you're going to have to see him probably be worked back slower, because now that the Braves are looking at it, they're like, hey, look at this lead we have. We got to make sure that we get back healthy. And look, a lot of those pitchers that they had, the other ones, Smith Shawver and Schwellenbach, I mean, those are longer term injuries, and Strider's is not. So, Donnie, if I had to guess sometime next month, right? Like May, we're almost there, but May would be a guess for me, and just kind of insert him back in that rotation. And by the way, the Braves have not been bereft of injuries too. As I mentioned, Iglesias, that was their big signing in the offseason. And I think they're saying all the right things about him, but they're going to be careful with him as well. Atlanta's position is so good right now, they can't afford to take their time with players. Whereas maybe some other teams that are in a different position, that are under 500 and fighting, may need to get their guys back sooner. So I would say next month for Strider.
Yankees fans having a pretty good season so far. Why? They're in first place. The Boston Red Sox are in last place. Last 5 games there for the Yanks. A perfect 5-0. And you take a look at this team as they're waiting on maybe getting their best starter back in Garrett Cole. A little bit of troubles there. Single A, double A, working his way back. But right now, the Yankees close to 20 wins on the Major League Baseball season. The lineup, 2 guys there, Craig, in April with 9 home runs. How about Ben Rice? 337 average, 9 home runs. Now, we're not going to get a 400 watch here from Aaron Judge, currently hitting 229, but he still has that power stroke on with 9 home runs here in the opening month of the Major League Baseball season. High expectations for the Yankees, waiting to get their star pitcher back. They'll take being in first place right now in the AL East, Craig.
Yeah, they're playing well this week, so nobody yelling and screaming about firing that manager, Donnie. That's a good. But next week we'll check back, and of course, after losing a couple in a row, they'll want Boone fired as well, and that's the way that the Yankees work. So next week it'll be a no. Look, they faced off with the Red Sox, who obviously were playing at a very low level, and you, as you said, could have led to some of this managerial firing, and then they got lucky and played the Astros, who I've tried to been telling everybody for weeks now, they're cooked, they're done. So soft part, I guess, of the Yankees schedule right now, and naturally they'll go through their own slumps. But look, this is a team, as you mentioned, Ben Rice, not just a budding superstar, but I think going to be a superstar in this team. And with the way that Stanton is going and some of the other players, they're just cruising right now and getting great pitching, generally speaking, from Schlittler and from some of the other pitchers in their rotation. Cole, Rodon, getting him back. Wow, like this could be a team that's fighting once again for a pennant.
Built on pitching, no doubt about it. Free, 2.40 ERA. Schlittler, 1.77. Will Warren, 2.59. 3.29 for Weathers. And they're waiting to see what they can get out of Heel this year. He's up to a 4.11 ERA. But if he snaps back and you get Cole back, things looking up for the Yankees and the Yankees fans in the Bronx this year. I'll tell you where things might not be looking up altogether this season on the diamond for the White Sox, but they may have found a gem here. Murakami, power surge, 11 home runs. And I get angry at this too, Craig, because the fandom always is going to come out in me. During the offseason, we don't. Alec Boehm's going to be my third baseman in Philadelphia. Don't need if we could see and go out and get another player. Murakami is killing it right now. Is the average there 242? Not necessarily, but 20 RBIs and tied for the league in home runs with 11. This guy's been everything and more from what they even expected here in Chicago.
Yeah, let's call it a great job by the White Sox organization, right? Like we haven't said that, Donnie, in a long time, but this is a great job. And a lot of teams were like iffy on him, passing on him, not really sure what to expect. He kind of bet on himself to some degree, got the shorter term deal. And Donnie, when I watch this guy swing, I don't understand how these balls are flying out of the park. It looks like this guy's not even swinging the bat. It's just like this guy is like the best barrel placement I see going right now in the big leagues. He just literally just puts it out there. Somehow this thing flies over. Good job also, Colson Montgomery. White Sox can swing it a little bit. They're not going to be a good team this year, but I hope that the White Sox look at this and say, hey, maybe next year it's time for us to really make a push for this thing. Because, look, I find it hard to believe that they're going to beat out Detroit or beat out Cleveland. But KC may be taking a step back. Maybe Chicago taking a step forward here. You're right. Murakami was arguably the best hitter in baseball this week.
Athletics looking to go to Las Vegas there at their brand new spanking stadium. But before they get there, they got a pretty good hitting stadium of their own in Sacramento. Nick Kurtz, we asked a couple questions here early, Craig. Are we worried about Nick Kurtz? Oh, no. Second year back, sophomore slump. They know how to pitch him. Home run stroke seems to be coming back. He's up to 5 home runs here to 242 average, OPS of 865. We'll see if he can get hot as the warmer weather comes in, but a little bit of worry early in the season. Not so much right now.
Nah, he shouldn't be worried. And the other part that the A's are just so smart with him is they have him leading off a lot, So eventually, Donnie, what's going to happen is they let him work his way out of the slump with getting the most plate appearances on the team on a night in and night out basis. So you knew that eventually that he was going to get hot. Kurtz had a great week, hit a bunch of home runs, and he's going to continue to hit home runs. So I really didn't have any concerns for a few weeks, and now he's getting going.
How about this one, Craig? Let's go down to Houston, because you might say to yourself, well, the Astros are 10-18. Oh, they're all injured. Nobody's playing well at this point. When a lot of my handicap on the Astros was, well, let's see what they can do. But boy, I'm really interested in what Yordan Alvarez is going to give us this year, because if he can bounce back from his injury played, no power season last year, that's going to really help out that Astros lineup. Craig, through April, 353 average, 11 bombs, 26 RBIs, and 36 hits. And they're in dead last place there out in the West. Unbelievable. He's back in full force. Just the Astros, I don't think they're going to have a great summer here at this point, because if you have your big wagon hitting like that and you can't win games now, ouch.
Donnie, is this guy going to be on the Dodgers in October? I hope not.
Oh, come on, don't do it.
That would be depressing. That would be, put this guy in Cincinnati, isn't that a great fit for him right now to take the Reds over the top? Donnie, I think the Astros may be forced to trade this kid. I think they may have to do it. They may have to be in a position to rebuild. They have so few young players. Him, Cam Smith. It's not that they have no one, but they have so few. I don't know. I'm sort of thinking that this is going to be the hot name at the trade deadline. Jordan is still fantastic.
Look at the OPS, 1.219. And again, like the expectation, maybe he's not going to be able to return back to form. Like, let's see what happens here. You're talking about an MVP caliber season on a last place team. And Craig is right. At the trade deadline or when things start to get heated up, you got a guy with that type of average and that type of power stroke. Yeah, he's going to be traded for a lot at this point. Pro Baseball Today moves on here on a Sunday. Who's not hot? Never want to be in that conversation in the month of April, but they always tell us it's early in the season. You can always sort of fight back and just get back to 500 around, let's just say, the All-Star break and see if you can make a surge into August and September. And sometimes, Craig, we can agree, hottest teams in Major League Baseball in late September, that can carry you through to a nice run in the playoffs. We're going to start here, and we might end here, and I don't know if we have enough time, Craig. Who's not? Yeah, it's the Philadelphia Phillies. Thank goodness they won yesterday because the MO for the past couple of days has been, let's take an early lead, and then we'll blow it late. They went to extra innings and finally knocked off the Atlanta Braves after seemingly never going to win another game in Major League Baseball, Craig, despite a roster loaded with starting pitching, a really good bullpen, and a lineup there that has MVPs and power strokes all over the place, seemingly can't get out of their own way. So, Craig, let's also double down on this. Alex Cora was removed. We opened the show talking about managers that might be able to be moved early in the season, and Rob Thompson in Philadelphia, as we call him, Topper, he's getting a lot of heat here early.
He is. I do think the Phillies will turn it around. I can't see this continuing all season, very similar to the Mets. And the Mets have this easy schedule coming up, too. And as you see, they'll take advantage of that, to a degree. But it was funny this week. They didn't fire a manager, but Donnie, they did fire a player, Philadelphia, right? Like they told Taijuan Walker it's time to go. Not that, I mean, he hasn't really done much, and obviously they're going to pay him the rest of the season. So, it's little subtle moves. Like, it's a big move, obviously, financially, but it's a little subtle move like that. It's kind of like a kick in the you-know-what to the team to say, hey, look, if you don't perform, maybe we'll cut somebody else. I have to believe Christopher Sanchez, who had a tough start this season, this past week, he'll be fine. I do think the Phillies will get it going, but as we saw last year with Atlanta, what does get it going mean, Donnie? Can this team play over 500 ball, and how long will it take? Like, if they play over 7 games over 500 ball, that only puts them at 500 for the season, Donnie. That's not good enough. So it does feel like they've buried themselves to a degree, but I don't think it is over for them. Too talented, as you mentioned. Getting Wheeler back this weekend, also a good sign.
Yeah, Wheeler pitched in the game yesterday. They did pick up the victory here, but you're like Christopher Sanchez has struggled as of late. His ERA is still under a 3. He gave him a lot of money. You didn't have to give him the money, but you know what? We're going to do the right thing. We got you real cheap. Looks like you're going to be the ace of our staff. Let's extend you, give you a little bit more money. Good on the Phillies for doing that. We'll see if it pays back. But then you go out and say, okay, you don't really need Ranger Suarez because we got Luzardo. We're going to give him a monster deal. Luzardo, Craig, close to a 7 ERA to start this Major League Baseball season. And also some of the things behind the scenes that you look at, like JT Realmuto. You saw him down for Miami for a couple years, one of the best defensive catchers, and his bat was really good. Bat's starting to fade, but there is still something to handling a pitching staff. He's down for a couple weeks with an injury here. Yep. And Johan Duran, who was one of the best closers in Major League Baseball, guys wasn't even pitching in games, Craig, and he got hurt. So the expectations now for the Phillies are, okay, got the win yesterday. Where do we go from here? But the one thing you need to lean on is Harper's doing very well to start the season. Schwarber got a mega deal. Yeah, the power's there, but 192. You look at the line of Alec Boehm, who's having so many issues, Craig, off the field as well. 149 on this season. Bryson Stott, they call him the daycare kids here. 244. The players that they needed to step up early have not stepped up in the pitching staff, which you thought, Craig, could get you through. Not very good to start.
Yeah, and they do still have a ton of talent. You make a really good point about JT being hurt at this point, really being a veteran presence on that team, and certainly he'll be around. It's just not being able to play. Injuries have caught up as well. I see the Phillies as a 500 team right now. I think that's probably their destination at the end of the season, which means they're going to play fantastic baseball from here on out. But just such a difficult start for them. And I don't know what will happen with Rob Thompson. My guess is that a 500 finish will not be good enough for him, and certainly it was not good enough for Joe Girardi when he was there too. But bigger questions are going to have to be asked, and somewhat rebuilding this roster. But Donnie, you can't get on a team like this in the National League batters 6, 7, 8, and 9 giving you nothing, and that's kind of been the story for them all year. That's a major problem.
Exactly. Yep, it's either they hit a 2-run home run or nobody scores. Like the fact that they can't say walk 2 singles and score a run, it's not happening. Let me ask you this question too, Craig. For the remaining parts of the season, would it be more likely that Rob Thompson is relieved, or do you still think he's going to be here for the remaining parts of the season as well, regardless of what happens? Good wins or bad wins, what do you think?
If they're cruising around this record, 5-6 games under 500, he's not going to make it through the year. No, I think if they're 500 or better and somehow climb out of it, I think he does. But no, the Phillies cannot be sitting on Memorial Day 5 games under 500. Can't happen.
And let me tell you something, being a Philadelphia Phillies fan, That place has already sold a lot of tickets before the season started for this season in anticipation of a good run here. If they are in the months, Craig, of July and August not playing good baseball, these players will wish they weren't playing in Philadelphia. It will be a hellacious season, but there is time to turn around here. How about those New York Mets? It felt like for a while, Craig, 12 losses in a row. Their manager's going to go. They can't get out of their own way. Juan Soto on the DL talking about, hey, you know what? I haven't spoke to these guys because they're mostly on the road. Who knows what's going on in that clubhouse? But it's amazing what a 2-2 last 4-game stretch will do. The weight of the world off their shoulders? I don't know. They're still in last place. But at least, Craig, they picked up a couple wins here lately.
Yeah, statistically speaking, the Mets have the best the easiest schedule in baseball, if I can get that out, in the month of May. So you would assume that everybody is kind of safe for the time being because they're just going to have a softer schedule coming up with the Twins beating them 2 out of 3, although they lost to the Rockies. They have a doubleheader with the Rockies on Sunday. Very similar to me, except for I think the players love Carlos Mendoza. It would be very hard for me to see them making a move during the season. But then, of course, if they finished 500 or below at the end of the season, the Mets could be right back to square one again.
Yeah, a lot of times you see, Craig, too, where it's like, hey, give the manager an endorsement at this point. And they sort of blow off the question. Yeah, I like the guy. We'll see what happens. They've been very vocal on how much they like him and basically telling you, and it's right, too. It's not the manager's fault that they can't hit. Now, there's some things that pop up like, okay, you're not running the bases well. It seems like the team is unfocused at this point. And that's why the manager can go. But they're very vocal about that. But you know how you give, instead of saying, oh, it'll be a mistake if he gets fired, just win some Major League Baseball games to keep him there. The team is extremely talented. And we came into the show this year, Craig, talking about how much talent they have and maybe a lot of missing, or should I say missing pieces, a lot of musical chairs on who's going to play where, how they're going to fit in and start to play. And as you said, an easy schedule coming up might be the best tonic. But let me ask you a question too, Craig. Kodai Senga close to a 9 ERA. Come on now. What's up with that?
Look, I mean, and Sean Manaea, who they just gave a contract to last season, basically can't even get outs with this team. So, yeah, I mean, look, they definitely some roster configuration going on there. Let's also be clear, very hard to dig out of what the Mets are trying to dig out of without Francisco Lindor. I don't know what's going on, as you said, relationship-wise with him and Soto and everybody else, but not having Lindor in that lineup for the next month or so, that's a crushing blow.
Well, how about a 6.23 ERA for Craig Kimbrell? See how long he lasts. But also understand this, too. Devin Williams, 10-plus ERA. Luke Weaver, over 5. You can't have that. If you're not hitting and not pitching, that's a recipe for disaster, and you find yourself in last place. We'll continue Pro Baseball today next after this short break.
Alienate your fan base. That's the problem. You know, you got to show your fan base that you're still trying to win, and you want to sell tickets in the summertime. You don't want to go into mid-May and say, all right, we're 15 games out, but it's still only early May. No, fans will stay away. So you don't have the luxury anymore of just waiting. So someone's got to get fired. One of these teams is going to fire someone by the end of the month.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
I thought the Jets would have pulled the Ty Simpson move. I was desperately worried that was what they were going to do. But instead, they ended up getting it right with Bailey. And so did, by the way, the prediction markets, because we saw all that money come in for Bailey. It's kind of funny because all it is, and then you forget, who did Arizona go with? I mean, Arizona went with a running back.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're seeing, as sports betting is continuing to rise, that some of the potential issues around it are rising too, and these companies are having to deal with that. You have several lawmakers have introduced bills across states in Congress to potentially curb some of the problematic activity. In some cases, like in Ohio, we talked about last week, to potentially end online sports betting.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
It's a 7-game sprint with a whole lot of volatility, right? You don't want the best team, so to speak, Donnie. You want the team that has a favorable group stage, weaker knockout path, and has some penalty variance coming their way here. Because this is all about the path to the final, Donnie. It's not about the best team, because the best team can get knocked out.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
Bit of a shocker here as we talk about where teams that aren't hot to start the Major League Baseball season, which we had teams with high expectations. With high expectations, Craig, comes from, you know what? You might get some fallout if things aren't working in your favor. Alex Cora fired as the manager, along with just about everybody else in that coaching booth, if you want to say here. They're all now gone. You have a new manager that's coming in. You're going to have a lot of replacements coming in. But the one thing we do need are some victories for the Boston Red Sox. So let's start here once again, Craig, as we opened up the show. The information flowing through, and we saw it from Jeff Passan last night, the Red Sox making major moves here for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and bringing in a lot of minor league coaches and managers. Chad Tracy, who's the son of Jim Tracy. Jim Tracy used to manage in the big leagues with the Dodgers and I believe the Pirates, and Chad Tracy played at a high level in the big leagues as well. Now in AAA, was told, according to reporters there, that he has got to get on a plane and get ready to go manage the big league team. So yeah, that's kind of the beginning of the fallout. And my guess is by the time we get to next week, we'll learn a lot more. Some embarrassing performances. Very weird to fire a manager after such a big win, and that's what happened, of course, on Saturday. But it's very clear that they had this plan to do that, and some players taking a very big step back as well. Bayo, in particular, getting absolutely blasted this past week. Anytime your team gives up 5-6 home runs in a game, and the starting pitcher is left out there that long, maybe that will be part of some of the conversation, Donnie. I don't know, because again, I'm not covering that team on a daily basis. But the story is not over yet. It is Boston. There's going to be some drama involved. And as great as Alex Cora has been, and he's been a fantastic manager for the Red Sox, it's a big organization, Donnie. Something's going to come out. Something's going to come out that something was going on there that nobody liked. You can't fire an entire staff like this without thinking that there was more to it. And by the way, along the lines, not that it matters one way or the other to the big league team wins and losses, but Jason Varitek, an all-time Red Sox, a World Series champion, disrespected. We're going to fire you. We'll figure something out for you to do and bring you back at a later date. I don't think you're going to see Varitek back. Just my guess.
Like, what's he going to do? Slide up into watching the games from the booth up there? Like, hey, just hang out. We'll eventually find a desk job for you at this point. We'll see what happens in that spot. But the interesting part about it, again, is the Red Sox sitting at 10-17. Everybody going in that front office. So, Craig, if I asked you today, is there a chance that the Boston Red Sox, because we're still in the month of April, do they make the playoffs this year? Or is it just that you think they might actually, let's reevaluate the entire organization from start to finish here this year?
That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
That's what this move feels like to me. Now, the idea is that you get that spark when the manager is gone, because the players then all of a sudden want to make, show everybody that it was the manager and it wasn't us. But in this case, I just don't see it. I don't. And the Red Sox are very lucky with guys like Rafaela and Roman Anthony. And eventually, I don't know if Tristan Casas is ever coming back, but Tristan Casas is another one that I thought he was going to be a star in this league. And Campbell, they do still have a lot of young and developing talent. And even with starting pitching too. And who knows those players better, Donnie, than the minor league staff? So they're bringing them up. But Donnie, why are they doing that? They could be doing that for the future. That's what I would be a little concerned with, no matter what messaging is coming out of Fenway Park this week and next week too. So are the Red Sox buried? No, I'm not going to say they're buried.
Yeah.
But I think they may get to July and look at it and say, oh my gosh, the Blue Jays are way better. The Yankees are way better. The Orioles are kind of better. The Rays are definitely better. What are we doing here? And it could be a punt. Could be a punt coming from them.
By the way, on the Red Sox, too, typically you get fired when you get beat 17-1. They won 17-1, and Alex Cora and everybody still got fired. So it was kind of interesting, the timing that came out on that. But remember, Craig, in Toronto, the Rogers Center, we're going to redo this whole stadium, nice renovations. We're going to bring the fences in. Oh, power surge, automatic up there. Didn't really happen for Vladdy and the boys. Why do I bring this up? Well, the Kansas City Royals, Craig, some of the big offseason acquisitions for them where, hey, we're just going to bring the field in, and that'll help out our power swings here. Bobby Witt Jr. doesn't even have a home run. Vinny Pasquantino in the middle of that lineup. 3 home runs, a 155 average. They, talking about the Royals, sit in last place as we talk today, Craig. Where's the power? Where's the surge? What happened to this team I was looking to love this year, Craig?
Yeah, I think people got way too caught up in the World Baseball Classic, by the way, with Vinny P and everything that was going on with Kansas City. I mean, come on, guys. Those were... they were very intense, but it's not the Major League Baseball season like it is now. Royals have to be careful here, Donnie, because Bobby Witt is probably one of the top 5 hitters in all of Major League Baseball, maybe even higher than that, maybe top 3. You don't want this guy, not happy. It's not the NBA. I get it. There's not, a ton of moving around, but you want to keep Witt happy. And there's been nothing to keep them happy this season, hitting, pitching across the board. So I do have some concerns with the Royals right now. And, the thing is, Donnie, for me, is a couple games under 500, that's okay. But look how far the Royals have put themselves back here at the start of the season.
By the way, shout out Seth Lugo, 31 1/3 innings pitch, a 1.15 ERA, and still in last place. You're supposed to hit Kansas City. Get out the bats and the lumber the rest of the summer. We'll be right back on Pro Baseball Today.